it's Bianca here from All Things Empathy. I am very excited because it's empathy experiment number 2. Oh wait, 2. Before we jump in, I just want to do a couple of quick reflections on the chat I just had with Megumi. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll post the link in the description box below. But yeah, I think in reflection, find it so interesting watching the conversation with Abdul and then the conversation with Megumi. I would say they probably view the world quite differently. They perhaps have different political leanings. I'm not 100% sure, but there's such common ground throughout the whole conversation. And it's just a reminder that even though we might have, different approaches to the world, different worldviews, that probably we have more in common around our values and the things that we hope for the future than we realize. And, the way I was able to observe that with both of them was through sitting with them for an hour and asking questions, listening, and not doing a whole heap of talking. And so I guess that is kind of the theme for the empathy experiment when we get to it in a moment. As I said, it is an empathy experiment. It's our second one. The first one, the theme was reflect, and this one is definitely a theme around listening. There was so much gold in what Megumi spoke about around the different, the power of the different strengths, I guess, that maybe quieter types have because they're real good at listening, they're real good at asking questions, all that jazz. And so I wanted to unpack that a little bit. I can't remember word for word what she said, but it was something like,
I think definitely that ability to ask questions, but ask questions in a way that isn't charged from the other side, if that makes sense. Because you can see that happen all the time when you see that conflict or two sides not listening to each other. First of all, they ask questions from a place of not having listened to the other, and that doesn't generate empathy whatsoever. So there's definitely that. But I think also being able to see both sides allows this person to find common ground and at times find a way to synthesize both ideas rather than keep it separate and finding the differences, which tends to happen when we're in a polarized view. We focus on the differences rather than where's the similarity.
So let's unpack listening with the intent to tell versus listening with the intent to learn. So listening with the intent to tell, there might be kind of 3 things that are going on in that moment. One is that you might be in your own head. So while they're talking, you are perhaps not listening. There might be an answer that you're formulating. You might be like completely disagreeing, screaming in your head.
What would you do if you were a hostage? Think about that. This is nothing. No, it's not nothing. It's something. It's a nightmare.
And yeah, not kind of paying attention because in your mind, whether it's like consciously or subconsciously, you're like, I have already made my mind up on this thing. And so there's nothing left for me to learn here in this moment. So that's one. The second thing is that we might kind of already have our answer formulated, and that's what we provide when there is a gap in speaking, or perhaps even we interrupt that person. And so that's number 2, is already having that formulated answer, which might have been formulated before the conversation even started. And then finally, perhaps we ask questions, but we ask really loaded questions. And so an example of a loaded question might be, you don't really like that politician, do you? So it's like, or, you know, we ask people, this sort of thing all the time. So it could be, I don't know, it could be anything. I feel like people do this with movies and books and TV shows a lot. Like, you haven't seen Game of Thrones? And it's all well-meaning, it's no drama. But a loaded question can be something that is passive aggressive. It's filled with assumptions about that person and it's loaded. So you might have like snuck a cheeky little opinion in there that when it's asked in a certain way, it can corner someone or like put them on the defense straight away because of the way that question's been framed. Whereas listening with the intent to learn means that you're actually listening to what they're saying and that it is with the humility that you could learn something new or that you're seeking to understand a different point of view. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with that point of view. It doesn't mean you're selling out on your own beliefs. It just means that you're just keen to listen and to connect with them for the sake of connecting and perhaps like not expecting anything in return for it. So, you know, it might be just that you're there for them to be able to share and reflect with you. It can be really hard to do that. I often find with coaching that if I'm in my own head, and usually it's nerves, it's around, oh gosh, I'm going to have to speak or help them problem solve something or provide advice soon, and I can get all up in here about it. And so something that helps me is to take 3 deep breaths. They won't know that I'm doing that because you're just breathing, while kind of looking at them with the intention that I'm taking these breaths to be able to really focus in on what they're saying. And I find that to be quite helpful. I guess in terms of giving feedback, listening with the intent to tell is providing a response, just which might be your opinion or your advice, whereas a kind of response when you're listening with the intent to learn is you can feedback what they're saying to check that you've understood it correctly, and then that gives them an opportunity to say, oh no, I meant this, or yeah, that's right. And then I guess the opposite of asking loaded questions is to ask genuinely open questions. So I don't think this is concrete, but I think a lot of questions that start with what can tend to be more open. So, you know, what did you mean by that? Or you could even say, oh, I'd love to hear more about that. It's not really a question, but it invites more of a response. And so, can you hear my cat meowing? Oh my gosh. She just wants, so drama. She just wants to be on this video. So yeah, listening with intent to tell versus listening with the intent to learn. And I think even if we just like scrapped all that and it was just like listening and connecting for the sake of it. Wow. Just because as humans, we really value that and it's nice. And we need more of that in 2021 for sure. So just the final thing is, if there's something you'd be keen to try out, because this is the empathy experiment after all, there's a little activity called Q&Q, question and question, instead of question and answer. It can be a little bit awkward, but it's basically going into a conversation only asking questions and not responding at all. And so you could find someone that you've been, you want to have a chat with, whether it's a partner, a friend, a colleague. You could let them know I'm actually, trying out this activity. Do you mind if I just ask you a bunch of questions? I'm not going to have any answers. I'm just going to listen and ask questions. Or you could just like do it on the sly and see how it goes. And it is really awkward when you do it. But it is amazing to actually hear some of the ways that people open up, particularly when they know they're not going to have any kind of response from you except for more follow-up questions. And it is quite amazing to see how deep you can go, even just with like 3 or 4 questions, and just get to know someone so much better, even if it's someone you already know very well. I guess that's why people see psychologists and stuff, right? Because they know they have this kind of open space to say whatever. But even, psychologists will give advice or make statements. This is about not doing that at all. It's just asking questions. Something you could do, it takes 5 minutes. Give it a go, see what you think. But yeah, it's even a very nice practice to have in the workplace, in your churches, in your communities, in your relationships, where you just say, okay, I'm just going to ask you questions and then you're going to ask me questions, and that's it, and kind of see what happens. Yeah, so if you do try it, I'd love to know what your experience was like. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to connecting with you soon ahead of our launch later this month. So there's heaps of fun stuff that is about to be revealed. Yay! All right. Oh my God, how embarrassing. All right, take care. Bye.